Hello, hello. Thanks for tuning in. Before we get started, I just wanted to make sure everyone can hear us all right.
Mic check, mic check.
Hello, mic check. Hey, hey, hey. Looks like we're coming through great. Um, so I wanted to kind of welcome everyone to the stream and just kind of give you a little primer. I'm not going to go too much into detail. We'll jump straight into the games and the conversation and introducing Matt. So this is an IGDA Winnipeg stream, and I'll just switch to the next slide here. So I'm not going to read off the slide directly. I'll just kind of speak from the heart a little bit. IGDA Winnipeg is being co-chaired by myself, Daniel Voth, and Corey King. And what we are trying to do with IGDA Winnipeg, along with the entire community, is create a platform to put a spotlight on all the cool people and projects within Winnipeg, which is a big focus of this event and having Matt on stream. So I'll give you kind of a brief introduction to this specific event. So we're calling this event Let's Play Winnipeg, an indie developer spotlight. And the way that it'll work is each week the goal will be to invite a specific developer on to learn more about them as a person, some of their projects, and get into some of their development practices, so we can kind of like acknowledge the cool work being done in the community and share that experience and that knowledge and that kind of professional stuff here. So let's take a look. Oh, thanks. I guess also thanks for watching. The next thing I wanted to do here, so forgive me as we kind of slide up the slides. And I will note, if you had a chance to tune in to our previous stream, this event is going to be a lot more casual in nature. So we hope that you like the variety of programming we're trying to provide at IGDA Winnipeg. So yeah, if casual Let's Play, having conversation, going back and forth is more your thing, this will be right for you. Without further ado, I wanted to introduce Matt Woelk. I've had a chance to interact with him on a number of occasions. He's participated in pretty much every game jam that at least I've been a part of, if not more. Matt Woelk, I don't know if you wanted to kind of share a little bit more about yourself, and then we can jump into some gameplay.
Sure. Yeah, I've been doing jams for a long time. Which it's funny to say, because the first time I did a jam, I did not think that I would be saying that ever. The first jam I did, I was like, games are cool. I can learn some Unity in a week and try to make something. And now I'm hooked, and now I'm here. So I love it. You can do it too. Let's make games.
I like that. So without any further ado, did you want to start with any specific game? I have them all downloaded, so we can jump right into them.
Oh man. Oh hi. Hey everyone. Hi. Good to see you. Let's start with Dog's best friend.
Okay. Let's get this loaded up here.
I've done a whole bunch of jams, and you can see on that page, they're all at spacewagon.games. But the last two have been almost completely solo,
okay.
And that's been really fun to only rely on myself, and to have to do it all and to feel like every part of making a game. And so this was a Loop and Dare one.
Cool. So what is this game about? I had a chance. Full disclosure, I had a chance to play through this. A number of your games I haven't had a chance to play, so I'm excited for today. What is this particular game about? What was actually, let's start with the theme. What was the theme, and then what was your interpretation of the theme?
Oh, what was the theme was Keep It Alive. Yeah, keep it alive. And so in this game, you're a dog and you're not the main character. You're the sidekick, basically. but you are who the player controls. And I wanted this to be an emotional journey about like a companionship of a person and a dog, but from the dog's perspective. Like, what does it feel like to be a dog? What does it feel like to just be way faster than the human? And you want to help them, and you want to explore, and to just get those emotions in a game. And I wanted it to be pretty simple. So you have a joystick, and you have one button, which is bark. And then if you walk into apples, you can pick them up, and that's it. That's it.
So one thing I wanted to
and you're on for the ride.
One thing I wanted to note was I don't know if people noticed, but at the start of the game, you can in fact pet the dog.
Oh yes, the dog does get pet. You, the dog, get pet. It's a reversal on a classic theme. You'll notice all the art is 8x8 pixels, or combinations of things that are 8x8 pixels. Very limited time budget, but I'm pretty used to making 3D games.
Okay.
But 3D art is a lot of work, and for this particular competition, you couldn't use pre-used assets. So I figured, why not just put some sprites in 3D space and put a bunch of lighting on it so that it looks fancy. And it seems to work out. I'm very proud of it.
Was this was the first game that you had done on your own? Is that correct?
This is the first like Ludum Dare compo.
Okay. And
so the compo being like really restricted rules, like everything has to be from scratch. So the music, everything.
Okay, so everything
limited
people are seeing right now is like everything that you had done on your own.
Yeah, within 48-hour span. Okay. Yeah, all the stuff. And there's music too. I don't know. Oh, I should check if you can hear the music. Oh yeah, there it is. But the wolves were added later, so that was an addition, a story beat that I couldn't get in the jam. But,
okay. I guess it's important to note that we're playing the post-jam version. So I'm curious, how do you approach a compo Ludum Dare versus a jam differently? Like, what was that experience like? What did you kind of learn about your development process, I guess?
Well, when there's no fallback plan, like I can't just go find some Creative Commons music and throw it in at the last moment. When there's no backup plan, you have to plan everything. Like I need to allocate, what was it, an hour and a half to make a song. And the song didn't have all the pieces in it that I wanted because I just couldn't get it working, but you ship it anyway. And so I'm always thinking, as I'm planning features, I'm always thinking which of these features have to be in and which ones are optional. And hopefully I get a bunch of those optional ones in, but that's not always the case. And are those critical ones things I have time for?
Okay.
So for this one, I could have not had sounds or music. I've done that before where I just didn't have time. Okay. But I wanted to prioritize that. So I had to cut some other stuff, and that stuff was wolves.
Is there anything else that was cut as a result of that, or is it's mostly just the wolves?
Oh, now I'm trying to remember what all the process of this game.
If you were to continue to work on this game, what would you like choose to add, or what things do you kind of notice now, given more time, you would kind of supplement it with, I guess?
Well, we just played the whole game start to finish.
Okay. And
that was a pretty, it's like 5 minutes if you've never played it before. I'd love to make it, I wanted you to be able to go into the deep woods and discover equipment for your human. Like right now, your human has to just punch and kick stuff. But if they had an axe or something, then that would give you more options. I'd love a whole game where you are not the main character and your job is just to equip the main character, and they're doing their little AI thing, and they're not that smart, but they're motivated, and you get to help them. So I'd love to make it a bigger, like a more open world kind of experience. This one's quite linear, but I guess that'd be tough to do with an AI because I guess they choose where to go. You don't choose where to go.
One thing that I kind of noticed is that despite the like simplistic nature of the graphics, the gameplay is still engaging, even though it's like a little slice of what you kind of envision. There are like the mechanics that are there are, you know, engaging, I would say, to some degree.
Yeah, I think it's just enough. I'm looking at the chat here. People are saying punch kick, it's all in the mind. You know, video games, it's funny you say that because video games take place in our brain. Like the story is happening in our brain. Like it's that full cycle of your eyes and ears, your brain, your hands, and then a computer. And so your body's doing half the work and making this experience. And I think by having simple graphics like these, it helps the player use their imagination to fill in the gaps. Like we see those like 8 pixels and we're like, oh, that's a snake and it's spitting venom. This is a dangerous situation. And that's just happening in the brain. Hey, don't like that.
So for context, before, as I was downloading a number of Matt's games, I unfortunately stumbled upon a shortcut, and I guess I forgot to download the
No, I haven't pushed the update yet.
Oh, okay.
But I think it's possible for you to, like, so in this game, you can't really lose. The game will just wait for you to figure out what to do, and then you continue on. It's kind of like Wander Song in that way. No real lose states.
Is that an intentional decision, or is that a result of some of the things that you were mentioning earlier with regards to like scope or just time, a limitation of time, I guess, or?
No, that was absolutely intentional. I wanted, and part of it is because it's a jam game, and I want people who are rating this game to get the full experience. I didn't want the player to have an opportunity to get frustrated, get sent back to the beginning, and then say, well, I've experienced enough of this game to rate it, I'm done. I wanted everyone to get to the end and see the full story arc, and so the game just waits for you. Like right there, the human is knocked out, and they're just waiting for you to do CPR. And the bear will just keep like punching them while they're down.
This kind of seems tragic. Can't let this happen. So how do you? We talked about this earlier, but how do you teach mechanics when there are no like visuals on screen that like explicitly tell you, hey, this apple heals your human. This does that. How do you describe to the player what is happening and how to interact?
Oh, it's tough. It's really tough. Like right at the beginning of the game, if you restart, you'll see a tiny little prompt on screen, which shows it shows what buttons to press, but doesn't tell you what they do. Or no, it does tell you what to do. So on the left, it's like use those or the bottom button, or use WASD and space. That's what that's supposed to communicate anyway. And then on the right, you see a dog, which is also what's in the middle of the screen, and it has directions, and then it has this like shout thing. And now when you hit the button to bark, I made it so that you start close enough to a bunch of bushes that those bushes will bobble when you bark. And so now as a player, you're saying, oh, I can affect my environment by barking. That's what barking's for.
Brett has an interesting comment in the chat here. Forden says, help. Apples suggest eating intrinsically and to some extent healthiness. I would say that I would say there's some logic behind that. I would probably agree with that.
Exactly, and so it's affordances and level design. So for example, if you keep going, you'll find a dead end. There's some like human looking thing. It's glowing red, which is kind of strange.
Right.
And then there's an apple, and it's a pretty small space, and eventually you're going to run into the apple. And then as you jump around, you'll see that there's an apple attached to you, and you'll say, "Oh, I can manipulate my environment this way."
Okay.
And then you'll give it to the human. And another thing I did to like force the player to learn something, and I'll talk a bit more about that in a moment, is later on there's an apple that's already on the ground, and the human will walk into it and heal themselves.
Okay. And
so if by that point of the game, like, so you can see the apple there, if by that point of the game your human hasn't fainted yet, they'll be so close that you'll hopefully see them pick up the apple and get healed, and then you'll know what to do if they actually do.
That's pretty clever. So it's like an organic or an organic tutorial rather.
Yeah, and I find that as a player, that's so satisfying. Like, you can have something pop up on the screen that says, "Apples heal your human." Like, they pause the game, black it out, the screen comes up, it says, apples heal your human. If they get sick, bring them this tasty fruit. And that's nice. That's an opportunity to have some, like, flavor text. Maybe there's a narrator, you have another character. That's kind of fun. But as a player, feeling like you discovered something is very satisfying. Like, as much as people might think school is boring, learning is what our brains love to do, and feeling like you just discovered something is very rewarding.
I was gonna ask. So, how do you discover some of these like learning interactions? Like typically at a traditional studio, I'd imagine there's like a QA department, a number of people that can play testers. So, did you have an opportunity to kind of focus test it with people around you, or are you not allowed to do that? A part of the competition rules.
Oh no, you can get people to play your game. I got Jana to play the game. And she, like, it's kind of cheating because she's aware of the game as I'm making it, so it's not a pure playtest. And I've seen enough people play games that I've made that aren't very good that I can like gain an empathy for what a player will experience and kind of turn on my player eyes and say, so I know nothing. All I see is this screen. What does a player probably think right now? Like, what information do they have? And that's that skill of putting your brain in a player's shoes, literally, not literally, and see what information do they have, what do they need to know, what would their desires be at this time, and just kind of think from their perspective.
It looks like
there's
I was gonna say, I don't know if you were gonna point out the question in chat.
People are talking about animations. Yes, the human punches gates. That's because I didn't want it to be a single action, because I didn't want the player to miss it. So if they see a gate, I want them to know they have to get the human there first, and then they can go through. And also, I didn't want to make another animation, so they punch gates. Yeah.
It looks
and
like...
same for the dog. Like, the dog bounces. That's because I didn't want to draw another frame. So I just used math, because math is easier for me than making sprays.
Major McDoom is asking, were the sound effects created with BFXR? I'm not familiar with that.
Yeah, it was either BFXR or one of the clones of it, but basically, yeah. Which is nice.
For those that don't know, what is BFXR?
Oh, it's like it takes sine waves and square waves and stuff, and just like mulches them together randomly with some parameters you can set. Basically, the way you use it is you hit the randomize button until you find something you mostly like, and then you can ask it to change parameters just a little bit until you get something that's exactly what you want. And that is what I used for this whole thing. Originally, I wanted to record myself making sounds, or do like Foley work, or things like that. But I put about half an hour into it and found that cleaning up the audio and picking out the exact bit that sounded good was really difficult, and even more so, having it all feel like it lived in the same world was very difficult. Whereas if you're using VFXR, everything feels like it lives in the same world because it's all chiptune sounds.
I guess that goes back to your earlier point about only having so much time, 48 hours, you're doing everything yourself. So at a certain point, I suppose you would have to be kind of realistic about what you're capable of in that amount of time.
Yeah. And you can, you can't prepare a specific game ahead of time, but you can prepare your skills and your tools. So I knew I could do this lighting effect where the ground is one material, but I just light it differently so that it looks like different materials. I knew I could do that ahead of time. I knew I could put 2D sprites in 3D space. I knew about that audio tool, and just having that like set of tools in my tool belt let me make this game pretty quickly.
Cool. So I think what we'll do is, unless there's anything you wanted to add about this game, I'm going to post a link to this game in the chat. So if people want to play, they can check that out. Is there anything else you wanted to kind of share about this, like insights? Oftentimes I find sometimes the most interesting development kind of like little nuggets is I don't know where I was going with this question, but just interesting little insights where it's like, oh, this sprite is just like a blown up version of the apple, and just kind of tricks, I guess, is what I'm getting at.
I have a whole tweet thread about behind the scenes tricks I use to make this game.
Okay.
And I can post that. I'll find it and post it, and then you can also explore.
Post in the chat. Flighty Felon, aka Rebecca, is saying we should play After Hours, a reverse Metroidvania, which is another project that yourself, Rebecca, and Kai, I believe, is that correct? Worked on?
Yep.
Cool.
Yep.
Which game did you want to jump into? That game, or is there another game?
Sure. Let's do it. It's super neat.
Okay. Cool. So, shoot, how do we do this? Let's go here. And does this one have an acronym?
Oh, it's probably just called Metroidvania or something.
Metroid. Ogam. Oh, that's flat. Metroidvania. Huh. Okay. Rebecca, I don't know if you recall what the file is.
You may not have downloaded it. If you have the itch launcher, then it's easy to find.
I do not have the
itch launcher.
Yeah,
it's
maybe I should have. Okay. Oh, After Hours is what it's called.
Okay, so I'll start talking about what a reverse Metroidvania is, as you get set up. Or you just downloaded it instantly because your computer.
Oh no! It was actually called After Hours, so I just couldn't find it because I was looking for Metroidvania, I guess. So, yeah. But yeah, just if you want to give a primer of what this game is, and as it's loading up here, we can jump right into it.
So this game was Ludum Dare as well, and the theme. Oh, the theme was you have to lose to gain or something like that. Someone in chat will.
I guess we can find it here. Actually, is it not in your page here?
No, I probably don't.
Okay. Well, Rebecca, if you recall, please let us know.
Some of them.
Anyways,
Um,
here we go.
So we were thinking about how in a lot of games you get better weapons and you get better skills and you're always getting more powerful.
Sorry, I'm just going
But
to
it's-
change the sound a little bit. It's just a little bit loud.
Oh man, this music. I love it. It's so like it's a farty version of Metroid. It's just kind of spoopy. It's very fun. Very fun.
Matt, do you know how to adjust audio sources independently of each other?
I don't.
Oh, sound mixer. There we go. I got it.
Music is.
There we go.
Chef's kiss.
Cool. Sorry. Go ahead, Matt.
So in this game, instead of slowly gaining stuff over the game, or instead of being like games like Metroid Prime, where you start with all your stuff, but then you lose it all and have to slowly build it. Instead, you start with everything, and your job is to lose it all in the correct order. And I'll explain a bit more. So in a Metroidvania, you go through the world and you need certain power-ups to unlock new areas of the world. Well, here it's the same, but we realized that if you take a Metroidvania but play it in reverse, where you're putting things back in their correct spot, it's a puzzle.
Oh, okay.
Because let's say you put back your hover boots, but you need to walk over the lava to put your gun away. Well, now you have to put your gun away first. And so it's a pretty small world, so it doesn't get too frustrating. So basically you explore. Oh yeah, I love that the morph ball is just like you crouching. Good. Man, it's just so nice. So you explore to see where these areas are. Oh yeah, and the fiction is that you're the janitor and you're setting up the Metroidvania game so that the heroes can come and beat the game.
Oh, cool! I like those kind of games where it takes the like conventional format and just like reverses it. Is it home? Is it home time already? Did you return the pulse gun to the top left guy? Also, please change your shirt. Okay, so I'm guessing we need to go to the top left.
Yeah, so we got some helpful employees that are on the breaks. You may need to make the game audio slightly quieter as well.
Quieter?
Yes.
Okay. Let me...
Just maybe 50% or something. Oh yeah, the joke is that the item pickup sound is way longer. Because in Metroid games, it's a really long sound. But here it's just excruciating. And also when you put an item back, it's in reverse.
Corey has an interesting comment that I didn't notice initially. So maybe you can speak on this. He says the wrap screen to match old TVs is nice. So there's like certain effects that add to the experience you're trying to build, and it's interesting how it's implemented in a way that's kind of organic to the point where I didn't notice it initially.
Yeah, when you're making a jam game, there's lots of little touches you can put in to make the game feel that much more polished without a ton of work. Like if you have an asset that'll just put a CRT effect in, nice. Add some bloom. You can see there's like grunge on the screen. It's like the camera's a little bit imperfect. All that stuff. It probably took 15 minutes or something to just put these assets in if you have them already. But it adds that much.
So
and it's thematic.
So similar to the previous game that we played, how do you implement teaching moments besides what you've already mentioned? If like the little characters. So like if I'm stuck, the guy tells me to go to the top left. How do you coach the player along if they're not kind of getting where they need to go?
Oh, well, that was one. So we found that it was pretty tricky to figure out what to do for some players. So we had to put in some hints. Yeah.
So is this now? Am I sacrificing access to some areas as a result of giving up my pulse gun?
Yes. I think the pulse gun, there are doors that it opens. Man, it's been a while.
Oh my gosh.
You can do it. Jump, then move. Jump, then move. You got this. There you go.
So maybe you can talk a little bit about all the people that helped to make this game and what everyone's roles were?
Mm-hmm. Yep. So Julian did the music and all the sounds and stuff, which are brilliant and fun, and they're all like parodies of Metroid, which is just delightful if you're familiar with those games. Oh yeah, so that door you gotta shoot.
So now I gotta go back to get the gun.
Oh yeah, you do. It's good to like scout out the map and then make a plan,
right,
and then execute the plan.
Sorry, so you were saying Julian was working on the music?
Yeah, and then Rebecca did all the art and a ton of the programming and implementation and staying up late to get it all in and make sure people could figure out the game and like the final polish and lots and lots of stuff. And then Kai did programming, like the player controller and the screen changer and all that kind of stuff. And then I did level design and puzzle design. And then a little bit of like implementation and a little bit of just a touch of things. But mostly I was working with grid paper, and then I put my grid paper into Unity, and that was it.
So can you share what the difference in experience is like between the previous game we played, which was a solo experience, a solo development experience, and there were some limitations with regards to how you're able to, like what assets you're allowed to use, compared to this, where you now have a team of people, so there's a lot of different things that you have to take into consideration. So how did everyone work together? What assets were you now able to take advantage of that you weren't able to previously?
Oh, well, I mean, having a real artist is just wonderful. Like, it's wonderful for me to not have to think about art really at all. Yeah, just to be able to turn off that part of your brain for a jam is so helpful in focusing on the other stuff. I do love the challenge of having to do everything, but it's nice. It's nice to share.
Right. It seems like also too, it's like healthy, and just in terms of like burnout, if you're just constantly programming, and you're never tapping into like the creative side of your brain, or the audio side of your brain, that it can get kind of, maybe the development process can get a little stale, possibly.
Yeah, I find that jams are a good way to exercise parts of my brain that I normally don't get to. Like level design. Like I'm not a level designer. Like that's not my job. But thinking about puzzles and again, it's like dog's best friend. I'm thinking, what does the player know? What does the player see? What's their possibility space, and how do I think they're going to navigate that? And then working with that. So, for example, this is quite a long level. There's a big like flat part in the middle, and I wanted that to feel like a separate space that divided two halves of the world, so that the player could more easily tell where they are. Because once they get to this big area, they know, oh, I'm at the big area. Okay. Now I kind of know where I am again. Right. Oh, and also there's a mini map. Hit all the buttons so you can find the mini map.
Let's see here.
Yeah, Rebecca says that's how artists feel about having programmers. Yeah, we all need each other. Absolutely.
Actually, it looks like I'm gonna find what the button is for the mini map. But while I'm doing that, it looks like we do have a few questions in the chat. Let's take a look at all. Corey underscore Zenfry is asking, he may have missed it, but did Matt build these art assets himself, or did he find these on somewhere? And I guess you answered that.
Yeah, Rebecca made them.
Right.
And she made the whole character. She made a modular character that made sense even when some pieces are on and some pieces are off.
And Julian typed in chat, what was your approach to the level design? I don't know if you already had a chance to kind of answer that, sort of.
Yeah, I grid paper. So we figured out this is how many squares high and squares far the character would be able to jump. And then I just went from there. And I probably could have done a better job in a lot of cases, because I'm not a professional at this.
But then it goes back to our earlier point about, you know, if you're never able to exercise level design, how are you ever going to get better at it, I suppose. Okay, so now I'm lost. I keep going back and forth. So in the bottom left, there is a thing where I need to... I need to go up here. This is where I need to go. Crouch.
I'm not going to answer the questions in order, but I will answer these questions. So Corey says, how did the team come to select this idea, and specifically the twist where the progression is reversed? Well, we started with it being reversed because the theme basically meant you have to get less stuff over time. And so we're like, well, that sounds opposite of what we're familiar with, specifically a Metroidvania. And then we said, is it possible to have a reverse Metroidvania? Like, what does that mean? And would that even work? So I spent a bunch of time making flowcharts. Like if you've seen Game Maker's Toolkit, the YouTube channel, the episodes where he analyzes levels, basically, and like locks and key systems. I drew something that looked exactly like that, and then just walked it backwards to see if it made sense. And I'm pretty sure that any Metroidvania played in reverse becomes a solvable puzzle. And so we knew it was possible, and so we just had to figure out like which power-ups were easy to put together and wouldn't add a bunch of extra burden on like level design and programming. So like the doors, that's a new system. You shoot a door and it opens. So we put in the effort for that one. Jumping higher is just the like a float changes to be a higher number. That one's really easy. What you just did there, running into the lava, we had to figure out where the spawn point is when you hit lava.
Okay. Because
you can approach lava from a bunch of different directions, and that was tricky.
Okay, I see. It's interesting how there's all these little considerations that the player doesn't take into account when you're developing these things. They're just kind of playing the experience, but you have to describe how the game will behave in those cases. So I think it's something that's easily taken for granted, probably.
Brett asks, what are some inspirational games from the last 5 years? There's a bunch. A Short Hike, which just launched on Switch like today, or it's coming soon or something. That game is wonderful because it's so complete and like it feels doable. Like it feels like if I put a like half a year in, I could make something that was a similar scale and hopefully a similar polish or something. Like it feels doable. Like the art is simple enough. There's a really good talk about it. So A Short Hike is really nice. Oh, it just hits the tone really well of that like melancholy, exploration. Yeah, that's really nice.
So I will admit that I'm not particularly great at puzzle games. So I don't
have to
know.
beat this one on screen,
Essentially, what I'm trying to say is I don't know if you would like to do the ending sequence, because you might have to jump in here.
Oh, no, you're good.
Okay. I do
We
have.
can leave it as an exercise for the viewer.
I did have a couple of questions before we jump into the next game, and that's now that you've kind of, I mean, it's been a while since you've had a chance to work on this game, but if you were to spend more time in the development process, what sort of things would you like to change in hindsight, or not in hindsight rather, but what things would you like to add in addition to, or things that you would like to tweak along those lines, etc.?
Well, I think given the time we had, we did really well. I'd love to make the world bigger in a way that doesn't add complexity. So here you have 4 power-ups, but we could have more. But we'd have to do some really clever level design where you only have to worry about one part of the world at a time. So you don't have to traverse the whole thing 5 times to figure out what the puzzle is. You can just do one section and then do another section. I don't know if that's possible in a reverse Metroidvania, but we can figure it out. I'd love to make the areas feel more distinct. If we had more time for different types of backgrounds and foregrounds and stuff. But that's a pretty big investment. Yeah.
Flighty Felon has a good point. They also mentioned that I'm distracted, so it is hard to play a puzzle game when you're kind of when your attention is in multiple areas.
Yeah. And Brett talked about cozy games. Cozy games are great. I mean, I love ferociously difficult games that you worked for to beat. That's also wonderful. But cozy games where there's not really a lose condition, or if it is, it puts you back 5 seconds, like this game. Most of my recent games have been like that, where there just isn't a lose condition. You can do better each time, or you get to the end and then you've completed the experience, and then that's it. But I really like that.
What game did you want to jump into next?
Oh, I mean, we can take requests from the audience. You can scroll through what we got here. Some of them are 2 players, so we can't really do that. But they're all nice. I love them all.
So if anyone in the chat has any requests, I'll kind of scroll through here, and I have them all installed so we can give any of them a try.
Yeah.
We'll do that next, and then I would like to play this one maybe after the viewer request, but
that one.
Yeah.
The old one, not like the newer one. That not the sequel.
There's a sequel. Oh, I didn't even realize. Okay, I have them both installed. I totally kind of combined both of these games, so pieces between us. In my mind, they were both the same thing. I'm only now realizing that they're different.
I want to do that one where, the time trial dog one. We or is someone saying Katsume? Katsume is so it's Neko Atsume, the app where it's like a whatever. There's cats and you slowly attract them. But the idea. Oh well, we'll just see.
So you have some feelings, it sounds like, about this game.
This one, I didn't have time for the amount of polish that I wanted, in terms of the game systems and balancing it, because it was supposed to be kind of an idle game, but testing an idle game just takes a lot of time that I did not have.
I guess for context, when did you make this game?
A couple years ago,
Let's see if we can take a look at the page here.
Dustin and I made this one. And who did music?
Daniel Bergman.
Daniel Bergman.
And it looks like this was last updated in 2017. So it's fair to say that you have gained some experience and some skills since you've worked on this game. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, and also, like I don't thrive in a UI only environment. Like we came up with the idea for the game, and then as I started programming it, I realized it's just UIs. Like there's no character controller. It's just user interface, and which it describes a lot of games, and I didn't quite realize that. Yeah, it's you gotta get it just right so that it's yeah. Brett says if there are any bugs, I'm gonna lose it. Brett, I assume you've already lost it.
So
the music's a bit loud to say.
So what is the goal here? What am I trying to accomplish?
You want to attract cats. Yeah, so you put some goodies on the ground, some things cats like playing with. Oh, and did you turn the sound down a bit? Or the music for the game?
I can do
Some
that.
people are saying this a bit. So just leave it there for a while, and eventually a cat will start playing with it.
I'll leave it there, right? Okay.
And then you can buy something else in the meantime.
Okay, so maybe this is a less engaging game to play on for an audience.
Yeah, it sure is. So I'll just quickly describe what's supposed to happen. So as cats show up, you get more money, whatever that is in this game, and you can buy more things, and more things in the store unlock. So if you just go to the shop, but scroll to the very end, yeah, like open up the shop, and then, or maybe the other one. Yeah, see, there's a handgun.
Okay, interesting.
So the idea is these cats start thinking they're the ones in charge, and they start ordering you around, and they get like a handgun and a tank, and they become a whole like military that take over the yard, and then you lose control.
Okay.
That was the idea. So it's like this cute game that ends up not being cute. Yeah, a Frog Fractions vibe. Yeah, it's like a hidden, this is what the game really is underneath. But that was quite ambitious, and didn't quite get there. But man, lots of the pieces are there. Like once the cats get some military stuff, the music gets this like snare drum roll in it. Yeah, there's lots of really nice things that didn't quite come together to be an engaging experience.
Cool. So I'm gonna take Corey's previous request here as for, I'm gonna scroll back, the time trial dog one, which is called Get to the Sea, I believe.
Get to the sea. Oh, and Corey asked a general question, not about this game. What would you make, or which game would you revisit if you had double the time? That answer is this one, because I'm working on a second level. Because this game is it's just really fun. It's really delightful, I think.
Is that that's not too loud, is it? Do we need to adjust the volume on that? Let's turn it down there.
Here, click on the game and see that. Right.
Speaking of cozy games, perfect. Cool. So
yeah. This
ahead.
is a racing game.
I have a lot to say about this game. I should probably let you talk about your game.
I'll introduce it at least.
Yeah.
So this game is called Get to the Sea. It's based on the YouTube video like Run Walter Run, where someone strapped a GoPro to a dog and just unleashed them, and their only desire was to get to the ocean, and they just jump over and through everything until they can get to the ocean. And I said, I've got a weekend. How about I make that experience so that you can be the dog? And this is it. It's called Get to the Sea. And so in the most technical sense, this is a time trial game. So when you get to the C, it tells you how many seconds it took you to get there, and then you can try to beat your high score. It doesn't keep track of your high score. I didn't have time for that, but you can keep track of your high score, and you can tweet it at me, and then I'll add it to the list of high score tweets.
So who currently holds the world record?
Oh, well, great, nice, wow, thanks. It's you.
Oh, interesting. How convenient. Oh, I missed the jump. I'm gonna go back.
Oh no. Oh yeah. Back. Oh, those sound effects when you're falling become very important for the speedrunning strats. As you'll see, probably Daniel will want to show off his strats.
Yes. So is this another Ludum Dare, or is this a jam you just kind of did in your own time?
This was the GMTK jam. So Game Maker's Toolkit, the YouTube channel I referenced before, they do a jam, I think once a year, and this was the first time I competed in that one.
Let me think here. Okay, so
yes, this does look slick for a jam game, and the reason is because I could use assets I didn't make. Because this jam was really lenient on art. As long as you have the legal right to use it, they don't care. It's mostly about game design, and so all like the control systems, of course, I had to make from scratch and stuff. But yeah, I used like the Quixel assets, and this dog was like a wolf that I had bought because it was free at one point, and then I just colored it yellow and gave it a Fresnel so it looked fuzzy. Yeah, so Daniel's showing off some of the speedrunning skills, where you can go much faster than any dog ever could.
So I guess it's almost impossible to anticipate some of these things, especially in the context of a game jam. What do you kind of do to mitigate these things happening, or is that the charm of like a game jam game? How do you approach that?
Oh, yeah. If you're lucky, people will find things about your game that you didn't know that they enjoy, and if you're not lucky, people will find things you didn't know about your game that they do not enjoy. Like you getting stuck just there on that random pizza chunk.
Right.
Yeah, that's it. Like I'm lucky that there are pro strats possible, and I intend to abuse them all when making a second level, so that I can have some control over it. I will talk about how I made it look fuzzy. So if you look really closely, there's two layers of fur. There's like an under layer, which was just a gray, like fur colored, it was just flat. And then I think that like the asset I got, they put some like threshold on it so that it sticks out just a little, but it's masked, if that makes sense. So that you get these strands over top. And what I did to both is I tinted them this gold yellow color, and then I just added a bunch of Fresnel. And Fresnel means if light is just passing like on like almost parallel to it, not directly on, but you just see it on the edge, then it'll make it brighter. And that made it look fluffy. That's about it.
So one thing that I kind of appreciate about some of your engagements with your games is that you kind of encourage people, I've noticed, to kind of compete across a number of your game jam projects. Is that like something that kind of helps, that you kind of intentionally do to help people engage with your projects as like a fun little thing, you know, whereas if they're playing it kind of individually, it's harder to compete with yourself, I guess. I guess that's the whole, essentially what I'm trying to say is the whole like leaderboard, the what's the word I'm looking for? The appeal of a leaderboard is what you're trying to encourage by encouraging people to beat each other's high score and et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, I realized if I just put in a number at the end, now this game can become a social experience. And that's it. That's all it took. Like, the game is already pretty fun if you don't know how fast it took you. Like, you can explore a few ways and then you're done playing, and that's nice. But by just putting that number in, now people can tweet at me and compete for a high score and like have a social experience. And that's delightful. That's my dream is to one day make a game where I'm convinced more hours have been spent playing the game than hours have been spent me making the game.
Okay.
And I'm not sure I'm there, but this one might be close. Oh, and the dog breed, this dog is based off of my dog, and we got her when she was already 10 years old from the Humane Society, but we're pretty sure she's a golden retriever and husky. So all the colors, like brown eyes, gold fur, but pointy ears, and that like husky face.
One thing that I wanted to acknowledge that kind of goes back to our earlier, our previous point about like engagement is initially when you put this game out there, I didn't get around to playing it, but as soon as you kind of posted that competition sort of online, kind of triggered for me personally. I was like, I want to get this high score so I can be like, hey, sorry, that sneeze is not coming. Anyways, as I was saying, like it kind of encouraged me to play it to the point where I played it for a long time, up to like 2 hours, just trying to beat the high score. Is there like something kind of satisfying in that where people are engaged with something that you've made so much that they're kind of putting in time to reach a certain point?
That's the best, and it's funny because it gave me the same reaction. Like, someone posted a high score, and I was like, "That's impossible! How on earth did you do that?" And I needed to beat it.
Right.
Yeah. So I'm happy that lots of people could have had that same like raw competitiveness show up about this dog game. Oh, and before someone mentioned the sound when you're falling. I put that in because it felt weird for you to just, like, there's no animation when you're falling, so at least the sound is going up. But for the pro strats, it's super helpful because now you know how fast you're moving, even when you're doing this glitch thing. Mm-hmm. And so when you slow down, it's not always visually obvious, but you'll hear it because that sound goes down. So I was really lucky. How many hours did it take Daniel to acquire acquire the record? Yeah, Daniel, how many hours to get the record?
So we'll say somewhere between 2 hours and 5 hours. Let's say this might be my second most played game of yours that I've put time into. Probably the biggest one is Propaganda Llama, which I would also like to get into before we close the stream.
I mean, I'm glad that one wins because that one took like the most time.
Right.
But a very, very, very long shot.
So is there like let me think here. Sorry. So you mentioned that you were working on, or at some point, you were going to work on a sequel to this, or just an additional level?
Oh, an additional level. I'm playing with some ideas. I figured out exactly the slope that lets you glide, and so I think I can make that I can still have terrain where you kind of have to intuit where that angle is, like it is now. Okay. But I can also make some of the regular areas a lot more interesting by having some obvious things that are at that angle. So it'll be a lot more work than this one. Like, this is a lot of empty space, and that's not what I wanted at all. I wanted it to take about a minute for you to beat the game. Oh, that was not bad. Oh, yeah.
No, that one didn't work.
And so to make it take a minute, I had to make this place huge, and I didn't have quite enough time to make it both huge and interesting. So for the next one, I want it to be huge and interesting, and that'll be a lot more work.
So another thing that I'm curious about is, oh, that was a good one. Oh, that was good.
Nice.
I'm not gonna have a good high score though. Another thing I was
great.
Another thing I was curious about was during the jam, you have an idea of what you want to make. I guess my first question is, did you kind of manage the scope of what you wanted to do within the time frame that you had for the jam?
Yeah.
And then my follow-up question is how do you approach adding like additional work on to the project? So now that you kind of have a quote-unquote unlimited amount of time, how do you decide where to put your time in this project?
I don't. I do a bad job. I just don't. Like, it's very common for me to put a game out into the world and then never think about it again.
Okay.
So just be like, well, I made a thing. What's the next thing? But so that's a discipline I'm working on for myself, and then coming up with some tools to be disciplined about it. Yeah, so a work in progress.
I'm gonna try and go for my.
What's this? I haven't seen this.
I think this
Is this
might.
how you got the high score?
I think so.
Oh my gosh! What?
Oh, this might actually
what?
be. This might actually be the highest score button. Okay, hold on. We gotta pause the stream. Oh, I did bad at the end there. Okay, yeah. I did
Gotta beat the high score left. Brett says it's political level randomized somehow in the sequel. That's a very good score. Randomization is interesting. So this game being high score driven, it should feel like a fair playing field. But I've seen roguelite games do things where they get the best of both, where there will be a daily challenge, and that is the same seed for everyone if you do that challenge. But if you just play the game normally, it'll be different every time and a unique experience. So that's a possibility for this. Yeah, a roguelite racing game, I guess. Is it a racing game? I don't know. Your other one was better. I don't know how you did it. That's incredible.
So I think the key to beating my high score is doing what I'm going on the left side.
Like
The
full left. Like
full left.
the most left.
That's the name of the strategy. Sorry, go ahead, Matt.
It's full left.
Yeah.
Ben says use seeds with associated scores. So, like, if you get a score, then your next run is based on that seed. I'm curious. Which idea is this? Tell me more.
Different dog breeds.
Oh, you could have different dog breeds. Maybe they have different abilities. Choose your loadout, and one's just like a cute panting chihuahua, and
so how do you like?
I love it.
They're kind of bringing up some interesting ideas here. How do you like separate? You know, to me, all of these suggestions sounds like things that would make the game funny or more interesting, or add like a competitive element to it. How do you kind of separate or prioritize rather what you want to do next? Do you simply approach it from an angle of this is what I feel like doing, this is what I'll work on, or do you kind of tailor it to what other people might engage in or something? How do you approach that?
Oh, well, if it's if it's interesting enough to me that I don't even care if someone will like it, I just want it, I'll do it.
Okay.
Like no one asked for wolves in Dog's Best Friend, but I wanted that like reverse story beat where you're not the one protecting, you're the one being protected. Um, and so I just did it because I wanted it. But as I think about features, like even at the beginning of a jam or when I'm planning out a game and I'm thinking about what features to put in, I I can't turn it off now. The like looking at a feature and thinking it all the way to the end of everything I would have to do to make that happen. So, for example, if I'm thinking about doing procedural levels, I need levels to be procedural. Does that mean that it's a few like really big Lego bricks and they go together, where there's a city and it's always the same, but it could be here, here, or here? Or does that mean that like down to the nitty gritty, it's different, and then I have to somehow balance and make sure you're not going to get stuck on corners? And how do I play test that? How do I put those guarantees in? So maybe there's a way to do it easy that gives me enough value that I feel comfortable with it without it being a ton of work. But that's kind of what I do. Like it's easy to say, I would love an MMO where you go to outer space and you can build anything and do anything, and there's an economy system and there's different ships and you can craft them. But I could start working on that game, but I couldn't finish working on that game. And so it's not really an option, even though it would be the best game ever.
Right.
So it's always looking at that like cost benefit.
There is a, I don't know what the word is, but there's a concept that you can make games for 3 different audiences. So you can make, you can be a game developer that's making games for yourself. You can be a game developer that's making games for your peers, so like other game developers. Or you can be a game developer that's making games for an audience, so like the general public, I suppose. How do you approach, in your development process, who do you have in mind when you're making these games? And is there different like segments of that? Like, so for Game Jam games, are you targeting it to one audience? And in another instance, are you targeting it towards a public audience?
Well, it will depend. So if I'm doing Ludum Dare, I'm thinking about my audience is someone who wants to spend 5 minutes or less with a game, experience the whole thing, and then quickly put an opinion together and move on to the next game. So for that, I don't want to make a 10-minute game. I want to make a 5-minute game. Like, I want to make Dog's Best Friend, which you are done in 5 minutes and you experience the whole story. Whereas if I'm making a game that is supposed to become like longer or emergent or roguelite or something, then that becomes pretty different. So for a oh, nice. Oh, that was a good hop.
Right? I was starting to focus. I don't know if you can see it on my face. Sorry, go ahead. Go on.
So dazzle becomes very important in a jam game. Like, does the first thing you see look and sound and feel good? Because you want to have the most polished 5 minutes that you can.
Right.
Whereas if you're making a large experience, you can sacrifice some of those other things a bit because you're in it for the long haul. So games like Dwarf Fortress, where it's just text characters, it is still a very engaging experience because you spend enough time with it that you're building an experience. It doesn't have to hit you all in an instant. Games, yeah.
I think another interesting point is when you talk about the 5-minute game being for a certain audience, I think there's also the potential that kind of grows into a project that can appeal to like a more public audience. So I guess a good example of that is that I can think of off the top of my head is Thomas Was Alone, which is a game that's based off of simple shapes. Granted, the version that's available now is a more complete version, but I would imagine, that kind of game starts as a get to the sea kind of thing, where it's a short little experience that you can kind of extrapolate to a different audience, a more public audience, rather than your peers or just for yourself.
Yeah, and some games, you can put a weekend into it and figure out if it's going to be fun or not. And some games you absolutely cannot. So part of what makes Thomas Was Alone so charming is it has like a nice British narrator, and the level of polish is out of control for it just being like rectangles. And that's all part of the charm, and the story feeds into it. There's a talk by Tom Francis about his game Heat Signature, and that game he put half a year into it before he knew if it was going to be fun or not, because what makes that game fun is having lots of things that you can combine in unique ways. And it just wasn't fun for the first 6 months, because if all you have is the ability to punch things, well, you're just going to go and punch stuff. You're not making interesting decisions. Whereas after 6 months, he had like different types of guns and something that would stun people if they were across a wall, and traps and all that stuff. And at that point, you can make interesting decisions as a player. But it took 6 months to get there. And I mostly focus on tiny games where you know if it's good right away.
Cool.
So that would be an area for me to explore.
Yeah, unless there's any other little nuggets of knowledge or development tricks that you wanted to share about Get to the Sea, we can maybe.
Oh, I'll post a link to the behind the scenes if people are curious for all the technical details. You can look at how terrifying the face of the dog is, because you never see it in the game.
Right.
So
so we can, well, at this point we can maybe take some requests in chat. At some point we'll get to this one, but if maybe I'll just prioritize the people that are watching if you have any requests.
Well, Julian wanted us to play Words with Foes.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we can do that.
But that's because he did all of the sound for it.
I don't know why that took me like that didn't immediately click. I was like, oh, someone wants to play a game. Yeah, we can do that. Totally slipped my mind.
It's a very good game, though. We should absolutely play it right now.
Yeah, we should. So okay. I guess I also contributed to that as well. Words with Friends. Okay.
Oh, Robert was saying, I feel like there's some subtext going on to that example. Yes, that. Yeah, Brett nailed it 100%. That's exactly what that example is. It's right.
Okay, let's take a look here.
And for random levels, allowing players to enter a random seed. Yeah, that's great. If you find a level that's super interesting, you could just text your friends with the secret code, and then they can play that level. So fun.
Okay.
Oh yeah, this game was Ludum Dare, and we got, I think, 5th place in the overall category, which is not an overall category. It is the overall category. It's not an average of the other categories. It's its own, which is funny because you can do better in the overall than any of the other ones. Whatever. So those are the credits.
What is the concept behind this project?
Oh, it's a Scrabble game where you have Scrabble tiles with Scrabble scores. But instead of playing against your friends, you play against a bunch of monsters that are themselves made up of tiles. And when you beat a monster, you get the tiles that make up the name of the monster. So it's wonderful for a jam game because we didn't have to draw monsters or make 3D art for monsters. They're all just Scrabble tiles.
Sorry, one moment.
No problem.
I just have to open up my overlay. Okay, sorry. So it seems like so far this project consists of the largest team that you've worked on up to this point in terms of like people working on the same project.
Oh, close to it. The biggest I think was Lucid Drifting Neon Nights.
Okay.
That was a big team.
Maybe we should read these wonderful descriptions. H is responsible for the evaluate. Well, I guess it's a little bit boring, but
I'll tell people what these descriptions came from.
Yeah.
They're all descriptions of things that are definitely not letters. Yeah, they're like random pieces of Wikipedia. They're like menu items from local restaurants. They're just such non sequiturs that I think it's pretty entertaining.
It looks like Major McDoon is hopping out. Thanks for tuning in. Yeah, Dan went big on the descriptions. I guess if that's all you kind of have going for you, you gotta commit to it.
This game is a great example of like, you don't need to be a programmer to make video games and to join a jam team. You don't have to do programming. Like for that other game, I mostly just worked with grid paper.
Okay.
And I still had a valuable contribution to the team. Like if you're watching this and you're like, I don't have skills, you do. Just join a big enough team that you can you can just do dialogue, or you can just do like scrape descriptions from the internet so that we have delightful non sequiturs. There's lots of games are so vast that there's a skill you have that can be put into a game. You don't have to be shy about it.
And I think that's a good point there, because I think it's kind of tying back into a lot of things that we are that we're kind of discussing, where if you're spending some time on the descriptions, that's kind of taking away time that you might spend on programming. So that's a valuable asset that person's bringing to the project, that you don't have to spend time maybe making descriptions and entering in code and pulling in silly descriptions from here and there.
Or if you have someone who's just really organized, that is a tremendously valuable skill in making games. Just being able to say, okay, what's our list of features? Who's working on what? Do we think we have time for this? Hey, let's think of a name for the game. I'll put the itch page together. Like all that stuff takes time and is a valuable contribution.
Let's say
Train.
Rain.
Ain't.
There we go.
Train. Nice. Oh, and so some things about this game aren't explained very explicitly.
Okay.
So that bear is a 3, a 1, a 1, and a 1, which means it has 6 HP. And so your word has to beat 6 HP. That's something we didn't get to put in is some sort of health bar. We were thinking of having the letters of the name slowly fall off as it loses that much HP, but didn't quite get that in scope.
Okay, so that's something that's not intentionally kind of obscure. That's an example of something that you didn't have time to implement as a team.
Yep, that's right. It would have been nice to give a little more clarity on how much health a monster has.
Okay, I'm gonna go for brain. That's gonna be my killer word. Brain.
Ooh, an ant. Can you beat an ant with a brain? Yes. Yes. Also for testing, and this is a pro tip from Kai, because he put this in. Sorry, they put this in. You can hold tab to speed up the game significantly, which is great for testing.
Brat. So I guess there's so many aspects to this project that maybe people don't understand or might not have the context of the work that goes in to make these things do what they're doing. I'm noticing, for example, a lot of quality of life features, like let's say the way that the tiles stack, the way that the tiles are kind of have a little bit of a floating effect that adds a little more immersiveness to the world. How do you? I guess my ultimate question is, there's so many things in this game, and there's so many things that you could add to it yet. How do you, as a team, how do you communicate all of the different ideas and put it into one kind of cohesive package?
Oh, well, if we're at our most organized, we have a nice list that everyone has access to, and you can put ideas in, and we can sort them. We'll put in a cut line where everything above the cut line we think we have time for, and everything below we hope we have time for. And just keep sorting things as we go and prioritize. Yeah. Brett says, the growing stack on the left is a really nice touch. Yeah, this game, like everything in this game is tiles. Like the enemies are tiles, you pick up treasure, and that's tiles, and that becomes your stack of tiles, which is your health. And you lose those tiles when you get hit. I don't know if Daniel's gotten hit yet, but
I haven't gotten hit.
Yeah, I get smacked by this this Medusa here. Just any small bird. Would have whacked. So those tiles are gone forever. And so once you learn that, and usually that's like a little bit later, once you start figuring that out, you're going to play tiles that you want to keep. Like if you know you don't have a lot of vowels, you're going to try to play as many vowels as you can, because your other tiles are going to get knocked off. So let's say there's a Q and you really don't like spelling words with a Q in it, it's probably going to get knocked off. And then now you're like trimming your pile in a way that you don't have full control over.
One thing I'm noticing in the like, I want to get to, Julian had a question, but one thing I just want to kind of acknowledge is the little sparkles that kind of. Can you talk about what mechanic that's teaching, or what that's supposed to be teaching to the player?
Yeah, so Medusa shows up and you see 3 that are sparkling. Those are tiles you don't have yet. And so they are more valuable to you because once you gain a certain number of tiles, you go further into the dungeon and you get bigger, badder monsters until you're at the end. And I hope you get to the final bosses because they're very fun. They're very fun. Best final bosses.
So Julian is asking a question that I actually wanted to bring up, which is probably the largest, or one of the most important components of the game, is how it detects the words and what is a legitimate word, and what stops the player from just typing gibberish and having it be accepted. How did you integrate that?
That's funny because it seems like a very difficult problem to solve. Like, how do we know all the words in the English language? Like, How did you program that? It's so funny. So you'll love the answer. You go to Google and you type in Scrabble TXT, and someone's gonna have a GitHub page with something called Scrabble.txt that's every word in the Scrabble dictionary, where it's one word each line. And all you have to do, copy and paste that, and then in your code, you run through every single line and see do any of these match the letters on screen. That's it. That's it. It's brute force, but computers are fast, and it's at least a linear algorithm. Yeah. I mean, you could hash table it if it was too slow, but it wasn't.
So if people want to help out, actually, so we can get to the end, help us type in some letters. Matt, if you have some words that I'm missing, that would.
Oh, these are tough. Torso? No, you need another O. Brut. German for death. Nice. 7. There was also a question, do you remember where the dungeon environment assets are from? Yes, we bought them off the asset store. I'm just kidding, Graham Borland made them.
I was gonna say, didn't Graham make
beautiful. These? Yeah, they're beautiful. He just made them, and the tiles and all that stuff.
Okay, so I'm gonna try and speedrun this as much as I can. I'm not the greatest speller, so forgive me.
They do look great. For the Saturday of the jam, he was just like working away on his laptop, and I was like, I hope it's good. I mean, it's probably good, but I hope it's good. And then he being a very talented Unity developer as well, integrated all the art in, and then turned his laptop around, and we were all just floored because we had been playing with programmer art until that moment. It was wonderful.
Brent? This is one of those times where I'm like, Brent's a word, right? No,
Brent.
it's not. Looks like Brent has a... Well, I'm kind of...
Bryn? How do you approach not having merge conflicts? Yeah, that's a great question. That's great. So Unity has this new thing called Collab, which is pretty nice, but I've only used it a touch. Mostly I use Git, and we just use verbal locks, aka, hey, I'm going to touch this file, nobody touch it. Okay, I'm done touching this file. Hey, I want to touch this file, is anyone touching it? Yeah, I'm touching it, don't touch it.
Is that an efficient way to do it, or is that...
No,
okay.
You should have tools for this.
Okay. So why is it that was the method that was used for this particular project? Is that a result of like Game Jam?
It's like ramping someone up on tools that do that properly isn't worth the time for like 3 days of games. Yep. Not until we get something good.
Go.
Is each room the same with different lighting? I believe so. Graham would know better. He did all the integration as well.
The rooms are actually... I do know that there's like 2 different versions of the room, I think. I might even be wrong. I shouldn't even talk.
Oh, there's some randomness. So all the wood can be randomized. Like at the top now there's some wood slats and stuff. And then you'll see some on the side sometimes. That's all random. So there is some variation going on as well. Yep. It creates rooms as you enter and then destroys them as you leave. That's right, with one difference. You don't move, the rooms move. Yeah, games. There's a nice behind the scenes picture if you guys want to see it.
Okay, we're making some progress. We only have... So I guess, I don't know if you had a chance to kind of describe what's on the right-hand side of the screen with the letters and the numbers.
Oh, that is... So the ones you can see are the ones you collected, and then how many are in your stack is the number. So you'll see, I think when you collect letters, they'll light up to show you you just collected that. Let's see. Tiles get, yeah, they pop. So you can see that you just added to your pile. So you can quickly look at that and say, oh, do I have enough vowels? Better make sure I keep them. Regarding merge conflicts, I think Unity just bought Plastic SCM, which is a tool that's supposed to handle stuff like that well. So maybe the future is bright for merge conflicts in games, but we'll see. The universe moves around you, indeed. It's such a nice way to make games.
Only a few letters left to go.
You can hold tab to make the game run fast.
Oh, I didn't even know I could do that.
Yeah, it's great for testing. So,
interesting. Okay. Bend. So it's neat how as a developer you can put in these little things to kind of that aren't intended for the final project but allow you to develop in a kind of accelerated fashion, I suppose.
Yeah, that's something I've been learning more about is like making tools for yourself so that the rest of your development can be more efficient. Like not everything you build has to be like player facing in the end.
Rand.
Oh yeah, we're talking about source control. Git's my jam.
Okay,
Git it's just so it's so nice for everything that's not a binary asset file. But it takes a good GUI. I like source tree.
So another thing that I'm kind of noticing is when you don't have enough tiles to make a word that's in the dictionary, what is the player like? I mean, I know what to do, but I guess you're forced to allow the player to use individual letters to attack the monsters.
Yeah, that was our solution for it, at least. Where if you really like right now, you don't have vowels. Like you're sunk. But you can just throw a single letter in there, preferably one that you want to keep around. I think it always does 1 damage no matter the letter, and then you'll get a new board and get some stuff. Oh, Sphinx, nice. Party Business says, so the monsters are from D&D. These monsters are from everywhere, ever. We went through like the Wikipedia page of mythical creatures and just went hog wild. And got anything that we thought our players would have some familiarity with and would be able to pronounce probably. And we just put everything in. There's so many monsters in this game. That's why it's so nice that everything's just tiles, because to add a new creature to the game is as simple as, like it's a Unity data whatever thing. It's like a file that represents data. You just copy paste, give it a new name, put in your description, put a little joke at the end of the description, and you're ready. Oh yeah, audio. We can talk about audio. So if you haven't figured it out yet, the letters each make a sound that is someone saying the name of that letter, just pitched in different ways. And then some monsters have really low voices, so we pitch it down so it sounds like it's a big monster. So like Bronze Harbury is BRO, it's HARBY, but really fast. Yep. Nice one, Julian. It's kind of like Animal Crossing, except with actually saying the letter names rather than sounds that are different.
Higher.
Higher.
Uh-oh.
Oh man, there's a Z in there. He's beating you up.
It's not
You're running out of time. No?
I don't think we're gonna.
Oh, can we use that X? This is the end, says Brett. Yeah, this is bad news.
For our hero. Okay, so I'm just gonna go for it. Oh no.
Why did you keep the X? X's aren't.
I did. I thought
I mean, they're big value, but no, so using it puts it back in your pile, so it doesn't get hurt. Oh, ox. Oh, no, it's too. Oh, you got it. You got a bronze harpy. That's a good chunk of tiles. Oh man, I don't know if you're gonna get through the final bosses.
I don't think so.
Never mind this owlman. Oh, your X. Oh no. Oh.
Tarn?
It's funny. There's so much delay with the chat that they can't really be that helpful.
Yeah, that's true.
Fleet. Helped.
Oh, so close, but yet so far away. Oh well. I guess it helps to pay more direct attention.
Another owlman. Ooh. Well, I think it'll just have to be our viewers will have to play this game for themselves, and then they can read all the hilarious text. It's all funny. It's either weird funny or actual funny. There's just jokes everywhere. You just need a Q. There you go. Dan versus Giant Squid.
Okay, so I'm going to...
Email!
Palm, mop, pope, pop, pot, pop. Okay, I did it.
Oh, delve deeper. This is the final boss. It's the quick brown fox. A nice font joke. What can I say about this game?
Oh no, we're not gonna. I don't think we're gonna make it.
I mean, it's got a Q and an X. That's like 18 hit points right there. Oh. And it takes 5 tiles each time. See, at this point, it would be really nice to know how many hit points are left, and that's something that we didn't have time to put in.
Pie. Oh, here we go. Let's make or break.
No.
Okay.
You lose. Wah, wah, wah. So that was the final boss, but there's also some post bosses, which are great. So I encourage you all to play that game and have some fun.
I'm just gonna take a look at how long we've been streaming for. Cool. So let's throw in another game here.
Oh, yeah. Any requests? Any of my weird games that you guys want to know more about or want to see in action? There's lots of weird ones. Like, there's weirdness for everybody.
What's your favorite game to play? Play that.
It's gonna be a Spring's Journey, or is it? Probably a Spring's Journey.
Okay, let's do that one.
Which is funny because it's not perfect, but I really like it. Like it feels different than any other game, and it's a complete but small experience.
What is it?
Oh, no donation.
I was looking for the title of. Okay. So I think what we. I'll have to play by ear, so we'll do this one. Okay. So I guess what was is this another jam game? And
Yeah, this one I really wanted to be part of this jam. It was the Unreal Engine jam. It's the engine that I use for mostly everything. Even though I've talked about Unity a ton today, it's like my most common engine. And I made this one in 4 hours because that's how much time I had that weekend. And you'll notice right at the beginning, the controls are just in 3D space because I didn't have time to put in logic for like the game starts and this thing pops up and tells you controls and you hit a button and it moves that away. All of that was too much time. So I just put it in 3D space so that the camera was looking at it at the beginning. And that was it. Yeah, what's unique about this game is that the controls are lean and then squish, and the squish is your right trigger. So if you squeeze it just a little, then you spring just a little, and then the joystick directly maps to your leaning as well. So the joystick and the trigger they're 1-to-1 with what is on screen, and I think that's why it feels so good. It's super tactile, so you have to jump to get places. You don't have a choice, and that can be kind of frustrating, but it's great.
So I think what we'll do is we'll play this one and then maybe one more, and then we'll see. I'm trying to think in terms of a recording what would be best to do. Anyways, in terms of this game, this was you said an Unreal game. Did you work on this one by yourself?
Yeah, in like 4 hours. So there's no music, there's no sound. This is all I had time for. The pen has a little animation. Oh, the fiction is you're a spring that got what is supposed to be part of a pen, but you got lost, and so you have to find your pen again. Because we've all been there where you're playing with a pen and the spring falls out and it goes spring and now it's gone forever. But you are that spring and you can make your way back. I got lots of compliments on the art for this one, which you did the double, nice one. Yeah. Which is I was kind of surprised because there's only like 4 colors in this game, and there's only like 4 assets, 5. But I think keeping it really simple, like I wanted to have a whole bunch of different colors for books, but that would have added a lot of visual noise that I don't think the game needed. So I'm actually thankful that I didn't have time, because it made it all pretty unified. Though I guess it looks like these are all part of the same encyclopedia, because they're all like identical books. Or maybe this is like a book printing place where someone's being very disorganized.
I think that's kind of a test, like the fact that people are engaged with something in spite of its simplicity speaks to that games don't need to be this overly complicated technical sort of mastery of program. You can have something simple visually or even mechanically sometimes that is still equally engaging.
Yeah, like the most complicated thing I put in was that boing effect when you let go, and it's just a sine wave.
Right.
I just put in the sine wave. That's it. It's pretty simple.
Okay, let's try this. Well, I guess we don't really need to beat this game, but I think for me personally, I'm kind of drawn towards games like these because I'm not the most pro gamer in the world. and this is still, even as a jam project, this is still has a degree of funness or whatever the word is. I'm not sure how to describe it exactly, but yeah. Is that something? Is that a result of intention on your part, or is that a result of the scope of the jam and the limited amount of time you have, or maybe at the time that you made it, the level of skills that you had at that time? How much of it is intention versus just circumstance? That like simplicity.
Oh, well, it all goes together. Like, good art happens under restraints. Like, you can think of examples where someone made something really good and on a really limited budget, and then someone gave them basically unlimited funds to do something, and it didn't turn out to be nearly as engaging. I'm sure you have examples in your head.
Yeah.
And so what good artists I know will do is give themselves restrictions and then see what they can come up with. So for me, that's often a time restriction like this, where I say, okay, I've allocated this weekend, it's set aside, I'm going to see what I can do. And that restriction fuels the rest.
Oh, I didn't notice this one over here. Oh, I only have 2 left. Okay, so let's maybe we can...
Oh, you found it. I was playing this game a few days ago, and it had been a while, and I forgot to start completely, and it took me a while to realize.
Okay, I think we actually might be able to beat it before we flip to the next one.
Be careful, this jump's pretty tough. But I think there's a way to cheat so that you don't have to jump the gap.
Oh!
There's no lose condition, but there is a I'm done with this game condition.
Interesting. Do you ever... Oh, shoot, I had a question about this. So one thing that's interesting about some of your older projects, or just anyone that's working on games, is that naturally over time you gain a larger collection of skills and experience. So my question is, do you ever think about, if you were to go back to an older project like this, what you would be capable of, or how you would approach things differently? Like behind the scenes, obviously we can't see the code and things like that, but is that something that kind of goes through your mind as we're playing through some of your older projects?
It's fun to feel the progress by trying to recreate an old game. For example, my first jam ever was a game called Car Fighter, which is not on this list, and it was I think a 4-player couch like, was it team based? I think it was team based. Anyway, you were a car and you could shoot stuff, and it took me all weekend to get the very basics of a game going. And for fun, I tried to recreate it, and it took me like an hour, and I had all the main systems in. So it's fun to feel that progress, and to know that like I'm getting these skills, and it takes a lot of time, but that's a fun way to feel that progress, is to go back in time and try to recreate an old project.
Brett actually made a comment that to me makes me realize the kind of the appeal of your spring game. It's got that Super Mario 64 wall jump multi-bounce vibe that he's kind of mentioning. And there's a game that's like kind of simple in a lot of ways, but still rewarding for like the user. I mean, what you're doing is just kind of, as Mario, ultimately you're just running and jumping. There's not really much else you can do.
Yeah, you can kick, but it's like, I don't even know how important kicking is in Super. You can do like a punch kick, but I don't know, like, maybe someone in the chat knows why that was a valuable thing to put in the game. Is it because to grab something you need to do that motion, and so they might as well just make it a punch? Or I don't know. Maybe I'm missing a whole level of the game because I never kicked anything. I don't know.
How do you feel about let me think here, sorry. Maybe closing on Propaganda Llama, or was there another game you wanted to kind of close on?
Oh, this is good. I think we get all the audience requests.
Okay, let's turn that down.
Yeah, Brett says punching could easily be removed, and you could just walk into grapples. I guess that button is reused for your dive, like your dive tackle, right? So maybe they needed the button for the dive tackle, and they said, well, I guess it's got to do something when you're not moving. So what makes sense? I don't know. Are you in your version of the game where you've 100%ed it?
Yes.
So
this game, I guess I'll let you jump into it, but from an outsider's perspective, this game has like a little bit of more of a journey compared to some of your other projects in terms of, you know, starting from a jam game and then kind of growing into where it is now. Do you want to kind of give the brief history of this game, Propaganda Llama?
Oh, this game, Ben and I made a prototype for this during a global game jam, and we had a local event happening for that. And we made 5 levels, and it was like the difficulty ramp up was like 1, 1, 1, 2, 50. But it was engaging, and it was a unique puzzle platform, like a puzzle system that we hadn't seen before, where it's basically a rail shooter, but it's one-dimensional. Like instead of aiming and shooting, it's just shooting. But anyway, you'll see it. And we had lots of ideas for it, and it was all pretty doable. Like we knew, if we had different types of llamas, they could do these different things, and that would give us lots of search space to come up with new puzzles. And it was pretty easy to come up with new ideas on this novel little system. And so this one we turned into a full game and put on Steam and got a publisher and got art, and you can definitely tell that this game was not made in a weekend by any screenshot at all in this game. Makes it totally obvious that would have been possible, and it feels good.
So you have a kind of a range of experience in terms of the time that you've been able to, or time and resources that you've been able to put towards a project. So it'd be interesting to hear your kind of comments and the things that you enjoy from making a game during a game jam, and I guess the pros and cons of making a game under kind of different circumstances. Sorry, that's kind of a
game jams are so nice because you know you have this much amount of time, and then you use that time, and then it's done, and that's it. And it doesn't really matter because everyone on the team expects to stop working on it after a weekend, and that's it. But with something like this, you need to scope out a project and plan so far ahead, and you don't know how long it's going to take. If you're making a game, you're making it because no one's made it before, and so no one knows how much time it's going to take. So lots of unknowns. Now, of course, I've made this, so if I did something of a similar scope, I would have a bit more idea on what it all takes to make something ready for the world. But I think game jams are fantastic because it does give you a taste of all these pieces. Everything except like working with Steam uploads, which like don't do it unless you really have to. It's kind of frustrating. But all the other pieces are there. Like getting your itch page ready and making it look nice, and putting in a tutorial, and getting your main systems in, and playtesting. Like you can do all of that in a weekend and experience a really compressed version of making a game from start to finish.
So I'm noticing here you've introduced, I mean in the last couple levels, you've introduced a new mechanic.
Yeah, you gotta hit it though, so everyone can see what it does.
Right. Sorry.
So he's dodging these blue llamas because they do the same thing as you, but as an undo. Julian says, what was the experience scaling this game up like from a jam to a full game?
That's a good question.
Yeah. It's planning. So a lot of it is experimentation, because this is a puzzle game where we try out some new mechanics, see how many puzzles we can get out of it, see if it's worthwhile. There's lots of ideas we had that we just put away because they weren't worth it, or like implementing it would be too difficult, or communicating it to the player would be too difficult. And we went back and forth lots, trying to figure out how to make the players learn what we needed them to learn. So in the previous level, we basically drew circles on the ground where you're supposed to like unleash your circle to make it as obvious as possible what we needed you to do, without saying make a bubble here. Okay, now make a bubble here. But scaling up, yeah, you got to plan. You got to say, okay, this is the whole flow of the game. We have this story that you experience through the game, mostly through that narrator or the commander character that pops up. And we needed that to fit with the puzzles. So as we're coming up with puzzle ideas and mechanic ideas, we're thinking about how that could fit into this narrative. So who are these llamas that wear blue? What makes them different? This is a political story. So what are they thinking? How will that hit our audience? Does it all make sense? And then how do we make all these levels look unique without breaking the bank on a ton of different assets? And also, we wanted every level to be pretty easy to beat. You'll have to learn something new, and then you'll be able to go back, and getting 100% on a level is a different trick. So every puzzle in this game has, except for like the first level, because of the intro, has a couple layers. And once you go through a bunch of levels, you can go back and use that information to 100% of previous levels, and that unlocks trophies at the end of the game. So all these things we had to balance. We had a big, I think we used Dynalist, which is a website that just lets you have lists of things. That's it. It's wonderful in its simplicity. And we just kept track of all, checked things off as they were done. Oh, this level has done a first art pass, so we tag it like that. Yeah, it's a much bigger production than a game jam in terms of being organized, keeping track of bugs, doing user testing, setting up a mailing list so that you have testers and you can make announcements, keeping your social media active but not annoying. Lots of extra things go into putting out something for realsies.
So I'm kind of there's some, so the difference between a game jam and a project like this is there's so many other considerations, it seems like, that you have to put into making a more well-rounded, polished project that you kind of put out for sale. So you mentioned like the things like newsletters and so I guess what I'm saying is I'm kind of curious about what that process is like, is a lot of people maybe want to make games and they don't kind of understand that there are those components that you have to think about. So I guess my ultimate question is, what kind of advice would you give to people, or things that they should take into consideration when they want to transition from, you know, a simple game jam game to something that they're trying to sell and make money from?
Well, I'd say do enough jams that you get good at estimating how much time it's going to take and cutting features when you don't have time for them. Because this is just that scaled up. And this is big enough that you can't keep it all in your head. You have to put it in a spreadsheet, or put it in some ticketing system, or some list where you can check off items. You can't keep it in your head, and so you need that extra level of like organizational skills.
So we'll end on the last level here. I'll skip to the last level because
The very last level. All right.
oh, I forgot how this. I forgot that this was a thing.
So the bonus levels are us very much messing with the regular formula of the game, just for some fun. Yeah, enjoy. I think there's a credits level, which is before these bonus levels, and that's the like.
Oh, cool.
And then you have to play it to see it.
This is cool. I appreciate games that kind of build credits in an interactive fashion rather than just kind of having text that's scrolling down the screen.
Yeah, and this has the effect of text like scrolling up, which is kind of clever. But also, I just didn't want to make another system. I wanted to reuse something I already had because it's easier.
Oh, there's me! That was me in the special thanks!
Nice. Nice. So fun.
Cool.
Games make them.
Let's jump back to the...
Oh, Ben says he forgot about the bonus levels. They're good. They are good. Oh, and everything's blue now because you're in the second half of the story. Oh, yeah. We put lots of little fun things in here.
Where was so kind of like if people we're gonna start to wrap up the stream a little bit, but I wanted to kind of get into some general advice, and unless there's anything else you wanted to add about this particular game.
It was a lot of work. Oh, it's always going to be more work than you think. Make sure you're ready to cut stuff. Oh, and if anyone has any final questions, fill up the chat.
Kind of, well, what people are potentially asking questions, I'll ask a few of my own. So, you have, it seems like you have a wealth of experience making games. What kind of advice would you give for people that are trying to pursue a similar path, whether it's professionally or as a hobbyist, to kind of get to a level that you're at, where you're able to make projects that are a little more polished than you kind of started with?
If you want to be like the best gameplay programmer, dive into gameplay programming. Find some free assets and don't worry about the art. Find some free music and just like focus on gameplay. But for me, I want to craft complete experiences, and so even if I'm not like, I didn't do the art for this game, but I had to know enough about how art in a game is put together to like guide that process and work with an artist. And so my advice, if you want to do what I'm doing, is learn everything and do a bit of everything. Like, download Blender right now. It costs you $0, and make your first donut, and learn what it takes and learn the terminology, and then go to band lab or garage band and make some songs and watch a video and learn the terminology, and then try to put it in your game. Yeah, touch everything. Talk to people who are smarter than you in these different fields. Be interested in all of it, even if it's not your main thing, so that you can get a sense of what all goes into making a game and how it all fits together, and so that you can. Well, if you want to lead people, you have to understand what they're doing, and it helps to have done at least a little bit of it.
What are some of the biggest obstacles that people might have to anticipate or overcome in the pursuit of doing this, either professionally or otherwise?
Lots of people want to make games, and so to stand out is very difficult. You can either get lucky or be persistent. I recommend preparing to be persistent. Yeah, the barrier of entry is a lot lower now. We have all these free engines you can use and free tutorials. And so if you want to be noticed, you gotta put in lots of work. Also, math. Computers are just machines that do math that you tell them to do. Learn math. Take it seriously. If you're doing pre-cal, most of the math I do in here is add, subtract, multiply, divide, and then everything in pre-cal.
Cool.
So, gain an intuition for different functions and how they look on a graph, because those are all useful in different ways. Like the spring was just a sine wave, and I knew a sine wave is a springy-looking thing, and I knew enough from high school pre-cal that I could manipulate a sine wave to start at a point that was better for my animation and to make it last a little bit longer, and then I multiply it by a function that tapered it off because I had that in my toolbox. Just gain an intuition for math, and that's all very helpful.
Cool. So I'm not sure if there's any last sort of comments you want to add. I guess a good point to jump off. If people kind of want to reach out to you, or kind of where can they follow you? Do you have a social media or a website, or are you open to questions, things along those lines?
If you want to play my games, you can go to spacewagon.games, and there's a link at the bottom to all the games. Tweet at me all the time. I love it. Tweet me your high scores. If you're playing my game, you will make my day by telling me and sending me a screenshot of you playing my game. I love it. That's at Matt Woelk, Woelk. We'll post it all in the chat. You'll find it all. Right. And it's all on this page too, spacewagon.games. Yeah.
I'm just going to open one last thing here. Sorry. Okay. Let's open OBS, and we will say not welcome.
We're going to say thank you.
Wait for it. Yeah, we're going to say thank you.
We're going to say thank you again.
Cool. So if you're wanting to engage in more of events like this, there's a few different kind of formats that we're doing with IGDA. Next week we should be doing another one of these with another developer, so you can stay tuned. If you follow us on Twitter or Facebook, you can stay tuned for next week. We'll have another developer, and the idea is we'll invite someone on stream every week, and we kind of want to showcase as many people as we can. So by all means, reach out to us on any of these social media platforms. Let us know who you want to see, what kind of events you want to see, feedback on this event, if you would like maybe a more concise structured thing, or if you like kind of the casual nature of kind of a let's play. please feel free to reach out to us. And I wanted to thank our special guest, Matt Woelk, for sharing his experience, his projects. I think you are in a unique position where you've had a lot of opportunity to engage in different things and make a lot of projects. So it's great to have you on stream and kind of share your work and share your experience with the community.
Thank you. It's been my absolute pleasure.
Cool. So we're gonna transition out here, and again, tune into our social media and stay tuned for announcements about our next special guest. Thanks for watching, everyone.
Bye.